Yes.
Why is it that, speaking for myself, that my mind, sometimes seems to be obsessed with bringing me down? Like the heart, I feel myself is good. The mind and the ego seems to want to ruin what you're trying to do for yourself positively. For instance, the idea that there is a higher power, divinity, God. I know in my heart that must be true, but my mind wants to make me think it's not true. Why is that?
When you lose connection, my dear, then it happens. If you get connected, be connected there. Believe me, every voice will come and guide you. Guide you. And then you will never regret. Never. Follow that voice. Try to listen to that voice. And keep coming to Karuna Yoga. Okay? This is the way. This is the way, my dear. To move on. And don't worry, I'll pray for you. Great, at least you are honest. You asked this question. Beautiful soul. Great.
The other thing,
proud of you.
Before we take another one, I just want to say something. The other thing that happens with that is it's a control issue. Meaning, the ego wants to be in control. That's the ego's nature. The ego wants to be in control of our lives. The ego, the mind, the ego, these things want to control us. That's one of the greatest stumbling blocks on the spiritual path, is when we talk about annihilating the ego, becoming the master of the mind. It's very difficult. It's much more difficult than just the technique. And it's difficult because it's a control issue. The mind and the ego want to believe that they're in charge. They don't let up easily. It's not just a matter of technique. I haven't annihilated my ego because I don't know the right technique. It's not just that. I'm not the master of my mind yet because I don't know the right technique. It's not that. They've actually got a life in and of themselves. We shouldn't feel so hard on ourselves that we haven't yet mastered our minds or annihilated our egos. They've got a life in and of themselves. And the problem with the spiritual path for them is that it lowers their importance in their role. When we become one with God, when God becomes what's guiding our lives, the mind is nowhere. Then the mind becomes the slave, as he's saying. The mind becomes the slave. We become the master. And that we that's become the master of the mind is the we that's united with God. So when you talk about that, that the mind is trying to bring us down, the reason for that is, what the mind wants to convince us of is, you'll never make it. You're not the spiritual type. Other people will get there. Don't worry, just keep going to your job, doing your thing, help your people, no problem. But don't think you're actually going to reach somewhere. And the reason is, that life in and of itself in the mind needs to make you convinced of that, because then you stay dependent on it. If we're living dependent on our mind, it loves it. Then we have to ask the mind everything. What should I do? What's the right decision? Then the mind really becomes the master. Everything we do, everything we do, we have to check with the mind first. The mind is controlling everything. The mind is dictating our decisions. The mind is dictating our life. But when we become one with God, the mind is nowhere. That voice comes, the heart knows the decision immediately. Come, cutie.
Come.
We'll be bulading. We'll be bulading. Come. She's also telling her. Come.
Oh, great. Raslia. Okay.
What's her name? Raslia.
Raslia. Come.
Raslia, is that right?
Come, Raslia.
Oh, just Leah.
Oh.
Just Leah.
Come. Come, my dear.
Come, just Leah.
You also come. See how they walk. How take their parents also to the right path. Come. You also come here. Come here. Hey, great. That's good. Cute. Okay. I think his first effort is great. At least she came from that far to this far, this near. Slowly, slowly she'll come here also. You'll see that. This is the way to move on the spiritual path. Just walk and you'll reach. It's great. Great, just Leah.
Leah. Oh, Monica.
Oh,
I said it was Leah. She said no.
Just Leah. Leah. Okay, Leah. Great. Very nice. Good. Okay.
Thank you.
So the way to get beyond that is just don't believe it.
Okay.
It's absolutely the counteraction to the spiritual path. The farther you go, the more that mind is going to yell. The more that mind is going to try to bring you down and tell you, you can't get anywhere, you can't do it. It's terrified. Absolutely terrified. Because once you unite with God, that mind is gone. And it's absolutely terrified of losing its entire identity. And the only thing to do, you cannot win it at that point. To engage in battle with the mind is useless, you will lose. That's its nature. Its nature is to win these battles. It wants to engage you in battle because it will win. The only way to do it is just ignore it. Just keep moving. Let it talk, let it yell, just ignore it.
Thanks.
Yes.